Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another round of the TRR 2020 Championship, round 22 from Aston. We're using a custom configuration today, A22, and the Formula BMW, which Jack, who's joining me tonight in the commentary box, will be able to tell you a little bit about. Hi, Jack.
Hello there. How is everybody? I hope you're well. So yes, we're joining you from a custom Aston configuration today. We'll take you around the track in just a second. Once qualifying gets underway, we'll jump on board with the driver. And today we are in the Formula BMW. So it's a mid-engined rear-wheel drive. It's borrows a bike engine actually. It's a 1.2 litre inline 4. Produces a massive 140 brake horsepower, 92 pound-foot of torque, but it only weighs 465 kilograms, so it gives it a power-to-weight ratio of 307 brake horsepower per ton. So very, very fun car. So BMW's got prior experience of junior Formula racing. There's a successful engine supplier in Formula 2, and I think they were briefly in Formula 3 in the 70s as well. They had a European F2 championship program that ran from 73 to 81, so they know all about open wheel, lower powered, downforce ridden race machines, so to speak. Their participation ended in the 80s before they moved up into Formula 1, but BMW returned to the junior categories in Germany in 1991 as an engine supplier to the Formula ADAC Championship. It was in 2001 that BMW decided to significantly increase its involvement in the series, and ADAC remained the sanctioning body, but BMW Motorsport devised the package of regulations and commissioned a new chassis, and this very car made its debut at Hockenheim in April 2002, and now we're running it 18 years later, almost, in virtual live for speed, a custom Aston configuration for your entertainment today. So when qualifying gets underway, I'll show you exactly what this car is capable of. It's a very fun car. Basically, just plant the throttle wherever you are, and it will stick through the corners. It's incredibly fun as well because you can just completely load the car up. So yeah, kind of wish I was in the driver's seat, so to speak, tonight, not in the commentary box. But nonetheless, hope you enjoy what racing is ahead of us. There are 30 participants so far in the practice session, just before the official qualifying gets underway. So
Thanks for that, Jack. Yeah, the FBM A22. A22 is a particularly tricky combo. It uses some of the nicest corners and some of the most evil corners on the track. It's a combination of Aston 2, which is Aston Club, and Aston 1, Aston Cadet. Just before we get going, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the event we have coming up this weekend, which is the Fragmasters 10th anniversary race broadcast here live from 1815 UTC on Saturday for a 3-hour race celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Fragmasters Fox Fridays series, a huge event with 30 or so cars piloted by solo and teams. You can find out all about that on the Live for Speed forum. That'll be at Aston 6 in the Fox on the 6th of June this Saturday. Join us for that.
I must say I'm looking forward to that. Should be pretty fun. I love little open wheelers. Always have a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, open wheelers have got somewhat of a they're not as popular on LFS, some of them as you might think. Actually, the BF1, sorry, the Formula One car is you don't really see that used anymore in series. Not many people enjoy driving that. It's just a bit too fast for some of the tracks.
Yeah, definitely.
We're just waiting then for qualifying to get underway.
It's currently 6:59 p.m. UTC, so any second now we shall see the qualifying session commence and the drivers make their way out onto the track. Not the shortest Aston configuration, but not the longest. I wonder how many laps the drivers' qualifying sets will be good for. Very easy to warm the tyres up in the Formula BMW.
it won't take long for them to warm them up. I mean, this track has got a lot of really tight corners and a lot of fast chicanes, so tyre
Yeah,
heat will not be
obviously,
an issue.
cars like this with the downforce through the slow speed corners, that downforce is less pronounced anyway, so you'll be using more mechanical grip. Easy to get some temperature in if you just load it up.
Yeah, one thing that's going to come into play here is the drafting. You've got a lot of twisty corners where it'll be hard to follow another car. The FPM doesn't generate massive amount of downforce. It's not that fast, so following through the tight and twisty corners should be easier than in some other single seaters. And by the time they round the last corner and head onto the start finish straight, it's quite a long start finish straight on Aston too. So
Yeah, I
plenty of
wonder if we'll
opportunities
see
to
any
overtake.
maneuvers into turn 9. We'll take you around the lap and show you where all the corners are and the numbers we've given them for now. No names, unfortunately, for Aston configurations. But I think we might see the majority, probably 95% of the overtaking into turn number 1. A long straight
Yeah, and the final
up into
corner,
the
remember,
first
it's a
corner.
bit of a
Yeah.
run down to the final corner.
If you can follow a car closely through 8, get a good run out of 7, you definitely are within a shout of getting passed into the final corner, because there's a few lines you can take around there. You can jug it up the inside, potentially compromise your exit, but if you've got that position, I mean, like I said, we've got a huge straight after turn 9 anyway, so there's potential to attack. We might see drivers being patient, waiting through turn number 9 in order to grab that draft on the start finish straight. But we've seen jostling for position here on this very straight in a bunch of different cars. You know, you can make the maneuver, but you're not always safe. Drivers can attack you back, as qualifying is just getting underway. So 15 minutes of qualifying here today. Looks like everybody is trying to get out straight away. This is a great opportunity for the drivers to, whilst jostling for track position, get used to how the car is on cold tyres with quite a plethora of cars around them. Just looking forward to turn number 2 now. We're 2 cars wide almost, everybody spreading out ever so slightly.
Remember, in this series, cars aren't supposed to draft in qualifying. It doesn't matter so much during their outlaps while they find a bit of space, but as soon as they start a timed lap, they'll have to space themselves out, find some clean air, don't get in anyone else's way, and go from there, basically. We're watching the 2 world-class Lions cars right now as they enter what we're going to call turn 3 today. And they head now into the Eau Rouge corkscrew section. And into the remainder of the Aston Cadet configuration before, instead of turning right, they will turn left onto the last part of Aston Club. So this next corner forms a little bit of a chicane, which is interesting.
We've just gone through turn 6 and 7. The chicane that we've just passed through now is turn number 8. Since there are curbs there, but it's not necessarily a corner, we're going to call that the kink. And this is the very final corner, turn number 9 now. So I can see a lot of drivers have got the surface temperature that they need, but the core temperature isn't perfect. So I would have thought the majority of drivers, their setups at least will be good for 2 laps, maybe 3, depending on how much scrub they get. Now Eyre Catilla under the Michelin bridge for his first timed lap. No one's set a time just yet. No one's managed to set an out lap and get around just yet. Nice and tidy into turn 1, using all the curb on the outside.
Quite a short qualifying session this, only 15 minutes, so it's not a short lap either, so this will be one of the more intense qualifying sessions that we've seen in recent races for the TRR Championship. Eyre has a car very, very close behind who might see themselves penalised if they get much closer. They're definitely within drafting range, which is not allowed.
Yeah, that's the EVR machine of Kaike Parapo in pursuit. He is slightly faster. Didn't hit the apex perfectly into turn number 3, but just seemed to just get on the power a bit earlier. Be a couple kilometres up by the exit. You can see just how close they are now into 6 and 7. You don't necessarily struggle with traction in this car unless your tyres are incredibly hot just due to the
There's a
low power.
car
We've got
off
a car
ahead.
off.
Oof.
That's Team Rock Racing's Frank there. In the grass out of turn number 7 as we make our way through the kink up to turn number 9. Is Kaike going to go for the inside line? He does indeed. See what I mean about the different lines that you can take. You can dive bomb there, but even though Yari has the position for now, Kaike can't help but draft. But it's definitely not going to be a fast lap from Kaike Parapo after that complete miss of the apex of turn 9 now. So, pole position so far for Pedro, 1:43.2. That's well over 8/10 faster than anybody else that has set a lap so far. In second position, we've got Team Rock Racing's Gavin Pete and the sister Team Rock Racing car of number 44. That's Salmonen. But at the front, quite spread out from pole to second position, just over 8/10 of a second, and then from second to third, just over 6/10 of a second. So
yeah, we're already a third of the way through qualifying now. This is how short today's qualifying session is. We're used to a plethora of different lengths of qualifying in this series, sometimes up to 25 minutes worth, but today, on a relatively long lap for Team Rock Racing standards, we are into the final 10 minutes.
we are indeed.
Quite a huge, sorry to butt in, but a huge gap between first and 20th now. Look at that. Over 5 seconds.
So I think roughly everybody will have been able to set at least one time lap now. We've had about 5 minutes, so your out lap's around 2 minutes with the pit lane exit and getting yourself up to speed, and a fast lap we know is in the 40s, the low 1-minute 40s. So we're just over 5 minutes into qualifying now. Team Rock Racing's Renault Coots pipping his teammate Gavin Pete, another driver in the 1:43s, but no one within half a second of your man on pole at the moment. Yoni Catilla in third position at 1:43.96, still over 7/10 away from the pole time, and we don't necessarily have a long lap time. 1 minute 43, 8.7 of a second, quite a lot. Obviously, drivers are free to adjust the setup as they wish. The cars, apart from being mechanically identical in a way, the drivers are free to adjust camber and toe and wing angles and things like that. So we could see some diversity of setup. Some people faster on the straights, but could struggle in the mid to high speed corners with the less downforce, relying more on the car's mechanical grip.
As we see, Pedro gets it all wrong out of the third corner there, out of the hairpin, and we'll have to abort that lap and do another really long out lap, over 1 minute 40 seconds. So he's probably only going to get another couple of runs at this to try and open up his lead at the front, as Conquest Racing Arco slots himself into second place. Renault Coots now into third.
Arco currently the closest man to the man on pole position. Still 3.5 separates him from the left side. Of the front row.
Adam was only 1/100th of a second outside of the podium spots, now is displaced even further by Jaban.
I do imagine that if there were no drafting rule, we'd see almost a virtual repeat of Monza in Formula 1 in 2019, with the cars deliberately backing themselves up as to not be the first person to attack the straights. So Team Rock Racing still occupy 2 slots in the top 5. Juban and Renault Coops in 3rd and 4th respectively. Arco still the closest man to get to your pole sitter, Pedro, who's still not improved on his initial lap time, a 1:43.20, blister in time. TC Racing's Adam in 5th place with a 1:43.72, so the top 5 accounted for just over half a second between them. Then there's a bit of a jump, a couple tenths down to 6th position, that's Yanni Catilla, as TJ, Pedro's teammate, that's a identical lap time to Arco, and MRC Gemini goes fastest of all by some margin, a 1:42.98. So originally Pedro was on pole position by, like we said, quite some margin, and he set a 1:43.20. Gemini has gone even faster than that, 22 thousandth of a second, 22 hundredths of a second, just 2.2 tenths faster. Finds himself on pole position for now. Just over 5 minutes remain until we get into race number 1. Always good to see the same familiar faces in the chat, so hello everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Sidus as Rick Cardle just outside the top 10 in 11th position. I'll run you down the top 15 just in a couple minutes time. Everybody seems to be on track though. Many on out laps trying to get the last minute lap times in. Many finishing up their current runs, so drivers on fast laps need to be aware of cars warming the tyres up, and obviously drivers warming the tyres up respectively need to watch out for the fast guys. Quite a train of cars just going through turn number 3 now. With just under 3.5 minutes of qualifying remaining, I'll run you down the top 15. So, MRC's Gemini on pole position so far. Fastest of all, a 1:42.98, the only driver in the 42 so far. Alongside him on the front row so far, it's Pedro with a 1:43.20. Arco is in 3rd position with a 1:43.56, followed by Pedro's teammate EJ in 4th position. Team Rock Racing in 5th and 6th, that's Juban and Renault Coops respectively. TC Racing's Adam in 7th position. Yes Motorsports Unite in 8th. World Class Lions Yanni Catilla in 9th position, followed by Team Rock Racing's Gavin Pete to round out the top 10. Sidus as Rick Cardle in 11th place, followed by Team Rock Racing's Salmon in 12th. Yes Motorsports Trespasser in 13th, Victor Veloso. The number 10 machine is in 14th, but someone has just bumped up the order. People still obviously jostling for position, so that's Frank actually. Frank for Team Rock Racing up into 12th position. Bumps Salmon, his teammate, and Yes Motorsports Trespasser down into 13th and 14th respectively, and Victor Veloso is the man in 15th place. So that's the top 15 for now. 2 minutes exactly remaining in qualifying. Curious to see if anybody can beat their previous best and potentially get closer to that pole position time. That's still a 1:42.98, a blistering lap there from MRC Gemini. There are only 8 cars within a second of the pole sitter. And that's a lot in these style of open wheel cars. Obviously, like we said earlier, drivers are free to make with the setup what they want. make the car react in the way that they want. They can adjust the suspension, the toe, the camber, the balance of the car, the wings, the aero, obviously, the brakes, the lot. You can adjust it. But usually, regardless of that, a lot of times the cars are actually closer together than you might think, given that the fact that I mean, we only weigh 465 kilograms this time around. We only have a 1.2 litre inline four that kicks out 140 brake horsepower. You know, it's not a car that you need to be scared of, so to speak. It'll chuck you through the corners, no doubt, but you don't really have to be careful when getting on the throttle, because it just doesn't have the amount of power to spin the rear wheels up. So it's really just about the apex speed and trying to carry as much momentum. It's arguably one of the closest cars to a go-kart, obviously, apart from the huge rear wing and the front wing. You would drive it in a similar fashion though.
As we see there, Chris McElroy getting it all wrong, and he's going to have to cut the chicane to keep out of the way of everybody. And
Chris McElroy, Easy Racing, Adam's teammate, currently down in 25th position. So 30 drivers have set times so far, and qualifying has just finished. So everybody who's on a lap will be able to complete it. Obviously, once you cross that checkered flag, that's your qualifying session over. Rick Cardle did improve beside us. He's up into 10th position. He's just outside the top 10 before. He sets a 1 minute 43.95.
Apologies to the viewers. During that session we had a bit of a problem with our overlays. We'll get them back for the start of the race. And talking of the races, we haven't actually gone over that yet. We've got two 15-lap races tonight. The second of which is a fully reverse grid race. And on a 1 minute 40 track, Jack, we're looking for quite a long race. Quite a long two races today.
It gives the faster guys towards the back of the grid in race 2 plenty of time to make their way through the traffic and up into those podium positions. We've seen plenty of wins from the back. The winners of race 1 at the very back of the grid for race 2 have actually made their way through and taken victory in both races, and it's very much possible today. That's Yoni Catilla across the line for World Class Lines. A slight improvement from him. He starts from 22nd position, so quite the spread of times at the moment. Couple guys towards the back of the grid in the 48s and 49s, and our race, well, it will be the man who will take position for race number 1 in the 42s. So I'm going to run you down the full order. MRC's Gemini on pole position, again with that blistering lap time, a 142.98. Alongside him, Pedro, a 143.20, so a couple of tenths separate two guys that line the front row. Arco finds himself on the second row of the grid in 3rd position, followed by TJ. Team Rock Racing's Jaban and Team Rock Racing's Renault Coops will line up on row number 3 alongside each other. DC Racing's Adam will start from 7th position, followed by Gavin Pete for Team Rock Racing in 8th. Yes Motorsports Unite in 9th position, followed by Rick Cardle for Sidus in 10th. World Class Lions, Yoni Catilla will start 11th, just outside the top 10 with a 143.96. So he is also the last driver to be within a second of the leader, so the top 10 spread out by a second. Kaike Propo for EVR in 12th position, followed by Team Rock Racing trio of Frank, Hydro and Salmonen in 13th, 14th and 15th respectively. Yes Motorsports Trespasser in 16th, followed by Victor Veloso for, well, himself at the moment, he's a privateer at the moment, in 17th position. Team Rock Racing's Crin in 18th, followed by World Class Lions Pekka Koivunen in 19th position. MRC Michael in 20th, followed by Race Green Autosport Roni in 21st. Yari Katilla will start 22nd. Meanwhile, Michael's teammate Mega for MRC will start in 23rd. World Class Lions Soini will start in 24th, followed by DC Racing's Chris McElroy. Team Rock Racing's Texas will start in 26th position, followed by Race Green's Magic. And Rocky 7 Up for Team Rock Racing will start in 28th position, while the final two, actually that is just the one person. There has been a name change, so they appear on the leaderboard twice. World Class Lions Bars will start on the final spot on a row, all on his own in 29th position with a 148.07. So quite the spread of times. Race 1 will be up and running very shortly. We'll have that graphic back. You need to keep an eye on all the positions. I don't have to let you know as often. Obviously, it's a lot easier as a viewer when you've got a reference. We'll have everything back up and running very shortly.
Yep, apologies for that. Thanks for the rundown, Jack. Just before we take a quick break, before the start of race 1, I want to remind everybody that coming up at the weekend, we have, very luckily, the Fragmasters 3 hours endurance race. That's live here on Sim Broadcasts from 18:15 UTC. You can sign up on the LFS forum. 30 or so cars will be entering that race at AS6. 30-minute qualifying session followed by a 3-hour race live here in full on simbroadcasts.tv. We'll be back in a few moments. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to round 22 of the Teamwork Racing 2020 Championship. We are getting ready for the start of race number 1. Gemini on pole position. 15 laps of A22 are go. Gemini leads the field away from pole position. Pedro immediately swamped by Arco in P2. The pair already side by side as we head up to turn 1. It's going to get awfully close now. We've got 3 wide in the background. Jaban is in the middle of TJ and Renault Coots. Gemini with a comfortable gap now to Pedro, and we see Arco under pressure with the battling pair of TJ is getting all sorts of trouble there as Adam's trying to make his way through. We've got 4 wide nearly. Contact again. Everybody's still trying to find their place in this race. Got a big crash ahead, that's a few cars off. We've got Jaban in the gravel. Terrible start for him then. Arco's dropped away back as well. We only get position updates at the split points at A22, so the order will sort itself out as the cars progress. We've got further contact up ahead as Adam tangles with one of the Teamwork Racing cars. Was that Renault Coots? Yes, it was. Gemini's already completed 1 lap of the A22 track. He's got a heck of an advantage now over Gavin Pete as the rest of the field just seem to squabble. We've got a bit of a battle going on here. It's a battle between TJ and Renault Coots with Arco for Conquest Racing in the background.
Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about earlier. Even though TJ made the move on Renault Coots, just look how much the Teamwork Racing driver was able to come back at him towards the braking zone for turn number 1. You have to be very precise when picking your time to pull out of the draft and alongside the car that you're trying to overtake, as Renault Coots moves to the inside for turn number 2. Manages to pull it off, use all of the exit, cover the switch back up. Renault Coots comfortably into 3rd position now.
While we were on board with Arco, TC Racing's Adam shot up the inside of Arco. Arco under pressure now from Yes Motorsports Unite. Sorry, Jack, over to you.
Yeah, they've got to be very careful through this corkscrew section. You can see how Arco lost out there. Had to run a little wide, and that's let Frank and Sidus as Rick Cardwell come through. But unfortunately, Arco mugged for a couple positions there. He'll find himself down at least 3 positions from where he was earlier. He's now in 9th position. This is exactly what Gemini needs from the race lead, though. You can just see that the gap is absolutely tremendous. It's 5.2 seconds, and we've not even completed 2 laps. That's how much more speed that Paul Citan, the current race leader, is carrying over the rest of the field. Also, Gemini will be able to carry this speed through to the next race, of course. A lot of the time, drivers will learn from a faster car by following them, but Gemini's pulled such a lead on the entire field now. The gap's up to 5.58 seconds. No one's really going to be able to benchmark themselves against the man currently in the lead of this race and figure out exactly where they are faster and slower, respectively.
We talked about it in the pre-show. Sorry to butt in, as Yes Unite gets overtaken by Frank. We talked about it in the pre-show where cars could make use of the home straight for slipstreaming, and we just saw that in action. Sorry, back to you, Jack.
Yeah, so the draft is huge in these little open-wheeler cars. Obviously, we've only got 140 brake horsepower to play with, so momentum is everything. You want every single advantage that you can get. The downforce, ever so useful in the corners, but on the straight, really only hinders you. You want to tuck behind the car ahead of you. Drive almost into that vacuum that's created by the huge rear wings on these cars. You find yourself doing 10 or 15 kilometers faster than you normally would.
Yeah, it is,
took
the
him.
overspeed is incredible. We're on board with Frank right now as he chases down the rear wing of Unite. We've got dust being kicked up as cars are taking a little bit more of the gravel on the inside of these corners than they possibly should be, but there's so many chicanes on this lap that you have to take advantage of them where you can. As we run out onto the penultimate corner, this little sweeping chicane section, Frank is going to line up Yes Motorsports Unite for a run down the home straight.
Yeah, so there's a couple lines you can take through turn number 9 that we're approaching now. You can hook it around the inside. If you hit that early apex and stick with it, you'll get the position from there, or you can sweep into the corner, take a late apex and aim for the best exit you can possibly can as Gemini sets the fastest lap on 1:43.54 now. Don't forget, Gemini is absolutely in clean air. If we've got a battle for second position, the two Team Rock Racing drivers, Renault Coots and Gavin Peat, side by side up into turn number 1. Who's later on the brakes? Renault Coots is around the outside. Now it's all about the traction. TJ and Adam there slightly tangling. They both... Well, TJ drives away. Adam's dropped back ever so slightly. So we've got a three-way battle for the lead now. TJ up the inside of Gavin Peat. Can he get into
Contact!
position?
Ooh.
He just dive-bombed the number 57 car in second place. That was not a very wise thing to do.
Yeah, that was messy. This is
The
giving
car...
Gemini the gap he absolutely needs. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, the car that he tagged there towards the second apex of turn number 2 would not have been aware. It's a very risky move, and you can see just how it's paid off for Pedro. Oh, sorry, TJ. Down in 11th position now. So, could have been in 4th if he just settled for that. Goes to gamble and unfortunately lost. That promotes TC Racing's Adam into second position now. He seems to have got around the Team Rock Racing driver of Gavin Peat. So Gemini leads at the moment into turn number 9 for the 4th time. Meanwhile, the drivers have only just left turn number 7. The gap from TC Racing's Adam in second place to your race leader is 9.29 seconds already. We're on lap 4 of 15. So huge
Unite
gap
and
for race
Gavin
leader.
Peat side by side. Sorry to interrupt. We were looking on the rear view camera of Adam's car there, and we've now got Yes Unite, who has got past Gavin Peat, but he's now going to have to defend up the back straight, weaving quite aggressively. Gavin Peat won't like that. But anyway, Gavin is now demoted to 4th place, but he's going to have a go.
You can see that we're only halfway along the straight now. If Gavin Peat can get the overlap done, it's not too late for Yes Motorsports United to tuck back into that draft as he does look. He might gain a couple Ks and send it up the inside. They both break relatively similar times. Gavin looking for that cutback, just couldn't get his front wing behind the gearbox of Yes Motorsports Unite and took in. So he will mount attack now into turn number 2, just unable to find a way through as Team Rock Racing's Frank behind catches up to the back of his teammate Gavin Peat. Yes Unite seems to be getting better corner exits out of turn number 1 and then turn number 2 as we go into turn number 3. The gap's increasing. Gavin Peat struggling on the power there. Frank's going to want to get around him very shortly.
It looks like Gavin's got a bit of front end damage, Jack. He must have been involved in one of the earlier contacts. On the front right, he's definitely got a bit of an askew front wing. Maybe that's not helping him through the twisty sections as Frank gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, we'll see how it affects him on the straight, because it could go either way. You could damage your front wing and the angle be adjusted either way, so you could have extra front end grip or you could have less front end grip, and that benefits you, or it can, you know, hinder you in different ways around the lap. As Frank's arguably the closest he's been to Gavin Peat, pulls to the right into turn number 9. Again, they both break at the perfect point. Can Frank hit the apex? He does indeed. Gavin not quite able to switch back and hit the same apex, but it's not over yet. We've got a long straight ahead of us as we cross the line onto lap number 6 of 15. What can Frank do?
You can see that slipstream in action there. He gained so much. He's gained like 3 car lengths over Frank, and now he's ahead before we've even gone under the Michelin bridge.
Frank choosing to wait a little bit before tucking in to the slipstream once again. He's almost conceded the position for now as we head into turn number 1 for the 6th time. You can see Frank's definitely still better than Gavin on the exit of the corners. Whether Gavin's hesitant to get onto the power, not something you have to always be aware of in cars like this with so little power. You can really just, you can boot it and go for it. Again, Frank, I mean, they carried similar apex speeds, but Frank's just earlier on the power out of every corner.
Yeah, this is holding them up a little bit because meanwhile behind them we've got Pedro, who remember was leading for a little bit of qualifying. He's going to want to get back up to the front of this group, and not far behind them it's Rick Cardle. So these two need to sort themselves out, work together, and try and pull away.
Yeah, Ricciardo doing pretty well for Sidus in 7th position currently. Started, I think, around 10th, so he's up a couple places.
Yeah, it's starting to get really close up ahead now. We've got Pedro, who's basically being patient and waiting for Frank to send a move on his teammate Kevin Pete.
Meanwhile, Frank did not get the best chicane. Pedro's all over the back of the number 6 Team Rock Racing machine. Where's he going to mount an attack? He looks to be looking towards the inside. However, Frank does seem to is reluctant to move away from that inside line. So Pedro looks around the outside, just not able to get anything done at the moment. But you can see if Pedro can get around Frank with the draft, and he can tuck into Kevin Pete, but with Frank having his teammate's draft, could he come back at him? There's almost contact, very, very close with it. Pedro moving over to cover the inside line, so Frank can't attack again.
He does the switch back, moves to the outside. Frank prefers the outside line into turn 1.
He definitely does. It's easier to get on the power when you're going a little bit faster. Obviously, you've got that downforce working a little bit harder. Getting that rear wheel pushed into the ground helps you get onto the power. So Frank attempted the switch back, and Frank's almost got a front wing alongside Pedro, but just not able to do anything into turn number 2. Kevin Pete again struggling on the exit. These two, even though they are battling, are catching up to the man in 4th position. What can Frank do into turn number 3 now? Arguably, you'd almost want to be on the outside into turn number 3 as into turn number 4. It gives you the inside up into the corkscrew if you were to run side by side. Still no room for Frank to get around. He's going to be getting frustrated because it's just backing him up into Rick Cardle in 7th position. He's got Yari Catilla for company in 8th position, so we're about to have a 5-way battle for the 4th position.
Yeah, it's all going to get very nice, and I'm enjoying this longer race. I was a bit worried that this would be quite long and we get cars spread out, but such is the nature of the slower single-seater car with a lot of downforce and a lot of wing, is that we've got some quite nice close pack racing, which is really nice. I wasn't expecting this still.
Unless there's a huge gap in terms of driver ability, it's very, very hard to get away from the car behind you when you've got such a long straight like we have here today. I mean, Frank again already alongside Pedro. Pedro will complete that lap in 5th position, and it's quite hard to say if Pedro's front wing's given him any extra or any less downforce, because once Frank pulled out of the draft, he didn't seem to gain much ground on Pedro.
We've got again, two cars side by side in the background. We've got Yoni Catilla and Rick Cardle also going at it. Yoni Catilla trying to make the most. He's on the inside for the next corner. Back to you, Jack.
Yeah. It's very hard for cars to kind of get away from each other. Frank's still struggling behind Pedro. They almost touch just ahead. Meanwhile, Yoni and Rick Cardle both battling over 7th position. Yoni just took 7th position away from Rick Cardle a couple corners ago. If Catilla is the faster of the two, maybe Rick can hang on to the back of Catilla and catch the group of 3 up, and they look arguably faster than the 3 ahead of them. Maybe they can all bump up a couple of positions. Kaike Parapo, again, the man behind Rick Cardle. Kaike in 9th position. It's going to be a 6-way battle. Frank and Pedro still really going at it. Kevin Pete is almost driving away now. Frank struggled through the chicane last time around. Doesn't seem to be able to carry the same apex speed as Pedro, and you can see the gaps increased. Catilla is closer to Frank than Frank is to Pedro, so that will all again shuffle depending on how Pedro takes turn number 9. Can Frank get right up behind him again and use that draft down the straight? Pedro's had an incredible 3rd sector. He's managed to catch up Kevin Pete, who seemed to just be driving away, looking in his rear view at all the battles as we cross the line to complete lap number 8 on to lap number 9 of 15. So we are over halfway now into race number 1. The man out in the lead, just completely driving away from the rest of the competition, holds the fastest lap and has led every single one so far.
Pedro was able to make pretty good grounds there on Kevin Pete. He just about had the slipstream on the home straight, and he's made great use of it. Here we come then into turn number 2. Gets a bit of oversteer, but doesn't seem to phase him that much. He's going to have a bit more draft, so these two are going to be closed up right as we enter the home straight for the next lap. Back to you, Jack.
Yeah, Pedro seemed to just get a bit too much oversteer through turn number 2 there, but his car rotated in such a way that when he regained control, he was almost at the perfect apex speed. He could get back on the throttle, and he didn't lose out too much. You could see still all over the back of Gavin Pete, but meanwhile, Kaike Paroppo in 9th position is caught up to the back of Rick Cardle, who's then following Catilla, following Frank and Pedro, and then Gavin Pete. So it's now almost a 6-way battle for 4th position. Anything can happen if they tangle at all. That's going to give everybody a free position. Obviously, we want to see everything as clean as possible. Both of the cars, 2 wheels on the grass there, Gavin Pete and Pedro, both looking for the best exit out of turn number 8 they can possibly hope for.
Look at the battle behind.
Do here?
Keep an eye on the battle behind as we head into the home straight. I think the battle behind is going to end up being more interesting at this point.
Yeah. Renault Coots is also caught up to the back of Kaike Paroppo.
Got weaving happening down the straight. We've got Pedro trying to make that move on Gavin Pete, and they're side by side as we head across the line.
Yeah, it's a 7-way battle at the moment. Gavin Pete and Pedro again side by side. Who's going to come out on top? Gavin Pete has led this pack for quite a few laps now. If Pedro can pull a move off around the outside, he does brake later. Managed just to hit his apex, get on the power a bit earlier, and you can see that move is secured unless Gavin goes for the dive bomb of the century into turn number 2. However, don't think that's going to happen.
Meanwhile, behind, we just saw Frank get back past Yoni Catilla, and now Rick Cardle has Yoni Catilla for company once again. And yep, this is now a 7-way battle for P4.
Oh, Rick Cardle gets a bit sideways on the exit of turn number 3 now. Kaike Paroppo is going to take 8th position from him.
Brilliant scrapping this, isn't it?
It's brilliant to see. I want to be part of it, to be fair. It'd be good to be in a car.
Yeah, we've seen the FBM once this season so far, I think, in 22 rounds. And this is definitely the car to go with today. I think this is yielding some absolutely excellent battles.
The gearbox on these Formula BMWs is obviously a bike gearbox. You'll see a lot of drivers preloading the gear. As Renault Coots for Team Rock Racing tries to go around the outside of Rick Cardle into turn number 9. The move might already be done before the braking zone. What can Rick Cardle do? Takes his normal braking line. He says, thank you very much. Even though you've taken the position from me, I have the draft now. Even though Renault Coots has the draft from Kaike Paroppo, do not discount Rick Cardle. However, Rick does not seem to be wanting to take the draft.
Someone who does want to be taking the draft is Gavin Pete and Catilla. Catilla gets forced on the grass nearly by Frank, 3 wide as we head into turn 1 on the 11th lap. 5 to go here.
Gavin Pete managed to take his apex. You can see the 2 drivers ahead seem to run wide. Frank took a later apex, which meant he was a bit tighter.
Lost 2 positions, remember?
He did indeed. Trying to get the switch back, but just not able to get it done effectively.
It's going to end up being very, very strategic who's going to be at the front of this group as they head on to the final lap, because they're just all swapping for position. The car who's arguably...
There's contact between Gavin Pete and Yoni Catilla there. Luckily they got away from it, but you can easily tangle in these cars. The wheels seem to, obviously because it's an open wheel car, there's no wheel arches or anything like that. It's quite easy to hook
Yoni
either of the 4 of your wheels.
It's now a 6-way battle for 5th position, as Pedro has made the most of this and broken away while everyone behind was squabbling. But yeah, these guys are still really, really close. 11 laps gone.
Yeah, what's going to happen into turn number 8 though? You can't go into there too wide. You're going to have to filter into single file. And that's Frank with a bad exit. He hits his teammate Coots, unfortunately, drops behind Rick Cardle. He should hopefully be able to catch the rest of this group up before the race is over. The gap is a couple seconds now. And Coots finds himself down in 10th position after that unfortunate contact with his teammate.
Arco, massive lock-up into the last corner, but he is looking all over the back of... not Arco, Yoni Catilla, my mistake. He's looking up the back of Gavin Pete again. Weaving seems to be a popular tactic to break the draft here. It doesn't work. It just slows you both down. The draft range of this car is quite long.
Ricciardo's going to have both Kaike Paroppo and Frank here if he can get the...
Kaike and Frank are bump drafting, it looked like it.
Yeah, but look at Ricciardo. He's taken the draft of the two and thought, I'm going to try it around the outside. I think he's pulled the manoeuvre off on Kaike Paroppo if he can get the power down.
Yeah, I think he's going to have it. I think he's going to get...
But he's going to take the inside line. We are 3 wide into turn number 2 for the 12th time. Contact between Kaike Paroppo and Frank there, but Ricciardo will come out on top into turn number 2.
Oh, bad exit.
Very, very sideways there at the apex of the corner.
This is fantastic stuff.
Frank checked up, managed just to keep his position. But this battle's only going to get more and more intense as the race goes on. Obviously, everybody running out of time. You'll see the drivers getting a little bit more desperate every time.
Meanwhile, at the front, Gemini with the fastest lap and also with a comfortable gap over Adam. But you have to say that Unite is definitely closing that gap.
Definitely. Coots is catching up to the back of Kaike Paroppo, and with this and 3 more laps to go, it's going to be another 6, potentially 7-way battle. Where
Adam's got a little bit of help now. He's got, I think, is that Boz or Yoni Katilla?
That's World Class Line's Boz.
It's Boz up ahead, offering him the draft. He'll say thank you very much. That gives him a little bit of an edge over Unite as we head up to turn 1 once again.
Yeah, last time around, Unite was the faster of the two. Adam with a 43.79. Unite in pursuit of TC Racing's Adam with a 43.53. So just over 2.5 tenths faster was the S Motorsport driver than the TC Racing driver last time around. We're on lap 13 and 15, so we've got the remainder of this lap and 2 more to go. What can Unite do from P3?
Adam runs quite wide, but gets a good exit.
Hopefully Rocky doesn't hinder Unite too much. Unite not being able to use all the outside of the track there due to the lapped car. Meanwhile, Gavin, Pete and Yoni Katilla are side by side on the entry for turn number 3. Again, this 5-way battle rages on. Rick Cardle's find himself behind the two at the moment, ready to inherit any positions that he can.
This battle for the lower positions has been really entertaining. As we see Rick Cardle getting all sideways.
Huge overspeed through turn number 5 now. If he could have just got it under control and control that scrub out of 5, he would have been alongside Katilla as Frank massively sideways, booting it out of turn number 5 into...
Oh, he makes the run on Rick Cardle. Rick Cardle's going to drop down indeed. 4 positions.
Yeah, Kaike Paroppo was on the grass alongside Rick Cardle there. So Rick Cardle slots into... Is it 10th position that he's in there? It is indeed.
10th place, yeah. Now, once again, Yoni Katilla looks up the gearbox of Gavin Pete as we enter the home straight.
Yeah, well, remember what I said about Team Rock Racing's Renault Coots when he found himself on the grass a few laps ago. He's now in front of Kaike Paroppo and Rick Cardle, and he's tucking into the back of Frank now in 8th position, so...
Yoni Katilla has to go on the grass! Well, it's somehow
unbelievable.
Worked.
That's some commitment right there, under the Michelin Bridge for the penultimate time. Katilla earlier on the brakes, Gavin Pete commits to the corner entry, however... Slightly turned in front of Yoni there.
Watch Frank.
Yeah, we could have a 3-wide battle here again into turn number 2.
Frank thinks better of it. I'm somewhat glad he didn't try and make that a 3-wide. It wouldn't have been that surprising. I've seen him do crazier things than that, but he opts to stick behind. And now look at the view he's got.
Yeah, he's got the exit that he needs. I don't think he's going to send it. Oh, he does indeed.
I didn't
think he was going to send
into
it.
The back of Yoni.
He did touch the back of the yellow and black World Class Lions car. It was a very risky manoeuvre now. They're trying to go through the corkscrew too wide. Gavin Pete needs to be incredibly careful. You can see how much ground he's lost by going too wide there. Renault Coots, his teammate, is going to go through, and so is Kaike Paroppo. So Gavin, by attempting to go too wide, loses out on at least 1 position. Still side by side with Kaike Paroppo as we enter turn number 6 and 7. Kaike just manages to use all that curb on the outside to get onto the power and secures himself Gavin's prior position.
For action, this is going down as one of the better races of the season, and that's saying something because we're 22 rounds in. We've got more contact between Renault Coots and his teammate. Teammates fighting so hard that they're pushing each other off the track, and that's let Kaike Paroppo throw his FBM around the outside. Is he going to go in the tyres? Nearly.
No love lost between those two, but keep an eye on
Definitely not.
Gavin Peak because he's going to mug both of these two if he has the room. Obviously, Frank closes the gap up to the white line. Gavin's got no way to go,
Three
but
wide.
at the moment, we are 3 wide across the line to start the final lap of race number 1. If I were Kaike right now, I'd lift ever so slightly, tuck into the back of Frank and use that draft, which then catapults you into turn number 1 for the final time. Side by side still on the exit.
He's going to have the line into turn number 2 here. I mean, that's a great move.
Kaike manages to hold it around the outside. I'm surprised he didn't move over to the right a bit more. It's given Frank a bit more track than than I'd like him to have. And
Frank's
you can see he's attempting to he attempts to pull the switch back off, but watered this time. What's Kaike Propo going to do on Gavin Peak? There's contact between the two, and that's a huge crash. 3-4 cars involved. Rocky 7 Up also involved. A car a lap down.
Yeah, it's a shame on the last lap. We were queuing up for quite a grandstand finish there, but it's all gone wrong as Kaike Paroppo sends it up the inside of... who was it he sent it up the inside of, Jack? I missed it.
I think it was Gavin Peak.
Yeah, you're right. Gavin Peak all the way down in 9th place now. With he's just behind Frank. So
and Gavin's going to be mad. I mean, I would if I were in that position. You've already committed to the braking point in the corner.
Kaike lets them back through. That's good of him.
Throttle there. If that was a lift or not, I'm not sure. But MRC's Gemini has taken the checkered flag, and they were that far ahead. Unfortunately, didn't realise that they crossed the finish line. So we'll jump to the front now. Meanwhile, the action towards the back of the grid, I'll walk you through it. Everybody seems to have settled down for now.
Yeah, congratulations to Gemini, a flawless victory. Adam and Unite not quite able to catch up to the back of Adam at the end there. Pedro broke away from that big group behind and manages to cross the line just outside the podium positions in 4th. Then it's Yanni Catilla for World Class Lions guiding his Formula BMW into 5th place. Avoiding the carnage behind, Renault Coots manages to finish 6th. Rick Cardle takes advantage of the last lap drama and finishes P7. Then it's Jaban, who we didn't really see much that race. He must have been behind the big battle. And then the unfortunate casualties of Kaike's lunge on Gavin Peak. We have Teamwork Racing's Frank, Gavin Peak. Then it's Kaike, who very graciously gave up the positions that he stole away just coming through the final chicane. That's good to see, good sportsmanship, but unfortunate that it was necessary even in the first place. Arco finishes somehow on his roof in 12th place. Then it's Victor Veloso for Energy Virtual Racing. Pekka Koivunen finishes in P14. Then it's TRR Texas in P15. World Class Lions, Yari Catilla finishes in P16. We've got a nice run of World Class Lions cars there, Jack, at turn number 1. That's quite nice to see. Then Yes Motorsports Trespasser finishes in P17. Road Appraiser Racing's TJ in P18. Teamwork Racing's Crin, who's somewhere over there, in P19. MRC Michael in P20. 21st is Teamwork Racing's Hydro. Chris McElroy for TC Racing finishes in P22nd. World Class Lions Timu Soini in 23rd. Race Green Autosports Roni P24. Then it's Teamwork Racing Salmonen in P25. Race Green Autosports Magic in P26. Master Race Cars Michael P27. And Rocky Teamwork Racing, the series organizer, finishes in the last points paying position, P28. Wow, what a race. Yeah, we were so engrossed in the action that was happening further back that we completely forgot to talk about Gemini as he came across the line. He was basically not on the broadcast because all the action behind was a lot more interesting. But nonetheless, great win for him.
Absolutely flawless victory to lead every single lap and take the fastest lap by some margin as well. The closest I think I've seen anybody get to is over a 10th away from the fastest lap. And Gemini obviously set, I'm not 100% sure if the fastest lap that he set was without draft. There could have been a possibility of a lapped car he could have used to benefit him, but the majority of that race you would have said he would have been in complete clean air up until the closing stages, and that's when the tyres aren't necessarily the healthiest. So I think he set that lap on around lap 3 or 4, maybe 5. And that just goes to show how much more pace he's carrying. He will start from the very back of the grid, race number 2, and be curious to see how many positions he can gain. It's definitely possible to win the race. I mean, look at the gap. The gap was 10 seconds to TC Racing's Adam, who finished in 2nd place. So it'll be harder for the guys to fight their way through the grid. We know how slow it makes you when you're battling with cars throughout the race. You saw Pedro finishing 4th, managed to get about 6 seconds on the train of 7 cars that were battling for 5th position. And Pedro was involved in that battle, of course, up until about lap 8 or 9, when he just managed to get away from the pack, and you can see how much time he pulled. So the guys from the back, the faster guys that won race number 1, will just got to be incredibly careful when they're going through the pack and try not to battle too much, because you're just throwing time away. But anything can happen. Race 2 coming up very shortly, another 15 laps. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to round 22 of the Teamwork Racing 2020 Championship. We are now officially halfway through the series after the next race. Today we're driving an A22 Aston Custom configuration with the Formula BMW. We just had a very action-packed race 1, haven't we, Jack?
We have indeed. Saw plenty of battles. 7-car trains battling over 5th position for the majority of the race. Now, all the fast guys will start from the back with a complete reverse grid. Apart from the non-finishers, who will tag onto the back of that, your race leader and race winner. Gemini will start from 28th position. So Rocky and Michael will line row number 1 for race number 2. We'll see how they get on. Obviously, they'll be leading the entire pack through to turn number 1. And the guys at the back, the faster guys, have got to be incredibly careful not to outbrake themselves, because the slower guys in front of them potentially braking a little earlier than the guys behind them. We could see some chaos into turn number 1, but hopefully everybody keeps it clean. Be curious to see how the faster guys can fight their way through the pack. I think it's more than possible for Gemini to win with the pace advantage he has over the rest of the field. You know, blistering pace in qualifying, led every single lap of race number 1 and takes the fastest lap by over a tenth as well.
Yeah. Just before we get going for race number 2, which I know is due to start very, very shortly, I just want to tell you about our race we have coming up this weekend, the Fragmasters Fox Friday 10-year anniversary race. It's going to be huge. We've got 32 teams of drivers all lined up for a 3-hour race, broadcast live and in full from simbroadcasts.tv, starting at 18:15 UTC for qualifying, and the race will begin at 7 UTC or 9 o'clock Central European time. Join us for that. It will be at Aston 6 in the FOX, the Formula XR. Very, very popular series. And we are at go for race number 2 here.
So again, another 15 lap. Rocky and Michael on row number 1. What can Gemini do from 28th position on the grid?
So here we go, hitting on the lights.
2 red lights, and race number 2 is underway. So, decent start from Rocky 7-Up, moves straight over to the right hand side to cover the inside. However, I think with the draft advantage the cars will have behind him, inside line might not be where he needs to be, but I mean for now, side by side up under the Michelin bridge for the first time in race number 2. Michael towards the outside brake slightly later. There is contact between Rocky and Michael. Magic got spun around there for Race Green Autosports, but Rocky in the lead still. Chris McElroy for TC Racing.
Huge action in the background. We've got absolutely cars everywhere. We've got Gavin Peat involved. We've got two of the WCL cars. Gavin Peat gets tagged again by rejoining Rick Cardle. Absolute chaos as usual in the second race.
Yeah, so unfortunately Rocky seemed to just miss the apex of turn number 2. Michael and TC Racing's Chris McElroy in first and second.
Chris McElroy?
Chris McElroy.
It's Chris McElroy. That's brilliant. Anyway, Chris McElroy, who I'm going to always call him, is up to P2.
Race Green's Autosport, Roney in third position. Struggled with the oversteer, just out of 5 now. We run down to turns 6 and 7 for the first time in race 2. Team Rock Racing, Salmonen just behind. Race Green's Ronnie is all over the place on them cold tyres, trying to get the power down out of turn number 7. We run through 8. Ronnie with a better apex speed, but runs ever so slightly onto the grass now.
Yeah, Salmonen's
side
going to
by
have
side,
it.
we're almost going to be 3 wide there. TJ on the left of Ronnie now.
Ronnie's struggling with
Team
cold
Rock
tyres.
Racing's Hydro now.
3 wide.
Hydro on the outside. He's got Crin for company too.
Ooh, contact.
Now it's all about the exit here. Look at Trespasser just threading the needle there around the outside of the exit of turn number 9 onto the straight. He's going to have Hydro's draft, and Hydro has Ronnie's draft as well. So Trespasser needs to move over to the left so he doesn't get boxed in now with 3 wide across the line.
Crin's going to have a great view into turn 1. Let's see what Crin can manage. 3 doesn't fit into 1, so can Crin gain anything out of this? We're riding on board with him now. There goes Trespasser around the outside. Crin's going to take a sneaky look up the inside. Ooh, narrowly avoids sideswiping him.
Yeah, Trespasser goes for the cutback there, but didn't pay off for him. He slots into 7th position now.
Trespasser moves up the inside of Roney. He's going to get the move. Roney has to kind of move out a little bit. Nice move there from Trespasser.
Yeah, Roney turned in and then he saw the car attempting to undercut him, and he just readjusted his steering angle as to compensate for the driver on his inside. You don't want to make contact in these cars at any point, especially when your tyres are still coming up to temperature. Up into the corkscrew for the second time in race number 2. Now where's Gemini in all of this? Gemini has made his way up to 18th position, and TC Racing's Adam is right behind him.
I wonder if Gemini was involved in the first lap incident at the
It could have been.
exit of turn 1. I have no idea.
Yeah, I saw a TC Racing car in there as well, and Adam's right behind Gemini now, even with a slightly damaged front wing, so I believe they were involved in that incident. However, these are the fastest guys on the track at the moment. If they can just be unleashed, they will have plenty of time now to make their way up into the top 10. Definitely possible.
Yeah, Adam's got the advantage now that he's caught up to the back of Gemini, and he's staying there. Yeah, he does have a little bit of damage at the front of his car, as you can see, as Gemini now will try and make full use of the 3 cars that he's got ahead of him. Adam's got a 4-car tow here. Let's see what Adam can manage up into turn 1.
Yeah,
here comes Gemini, 3 wide.
You find the faster guys as well will be more confident around the outside line. They'll know the limits of the car ever so slightly better because they'll stick on them limits.
Is Gemini going to manage it? He's on the inside of Frank.
The needle.
Look at Adam as well. Adam at the back there. He moves to the inside on. Is that
so Adam? Perfect apex speed. Amazing to get the car slowed down and took it into turn number 1. He does follow Gemini for now. He just needs to get around Pedro. Gemini looks to take the position from Frank as well. Adam's got to get around these two as well if he wants to stay on the back of Gemini.
Great drive
Very clean from these guys, all leaving adequate room for each other.
Yeah, now
Frank sends it on Gemini and just hooks the curb. You can see taking out a couple of objects whilst he's there as well. We're almost going to be 3 wide. Adam backs out of it, up into the corkscrew, but that backs him up into Pedro. There's contact between Frank and Gemini. Adam's going to go to the inside now around turn number 5, and there's contact between Adam and Gemini. Frank's off onto the grass on the inside there.
Oh, and Gemini loses the rear, and that lets Pedro through.
That's Pedro, yeah. So Adam at the moment at the front of this little battle, followed by Pedro, then Gemini, Catilla, and Frank's regrouped just behind Catilla.
So Adam managed to make
arguably in the best position that he can be, and he's got the race winner from race number 1 behind him, and that's his main competition at the moment. Adam in 14th position can carve his way through the rest of the field, who are only exiting the final corner now, which is the corner Adam is approaching. So 8 seconds between 14th position, which is who we're running on board with, TC Racing's Adam, and the race leader. Plenty of time for Adam to get back up into the top positions, especially if he can get onto the back of this train of cars that we've got running down the straight now.
I'm looking behind. We've got a cluster of 4 cars, 3 wide, 4 wide now. 4 wide as we head down to turn 1. This is actually insane. Who's on the outside?
Renault Coots, Victor Veloso, Gemini, and Frank all running in a diamond formation. There's contact there as they squeeze each other up into the braking zone of turn number 1. Japan trying to get involved there. The red car in the back of the shot just there. Gemini making a move around the outside of Frank as Victor Veloso looks to the outside of Renault Coots up ahead.
Absolutely brilliant dicing again in the midfield. These are the guys that are trying to get through to the front. They have got another 10 laps to basically get to the front and try and do stuff. But meanwhile, while Gemini's tangled up in this battle, Adam has absolutely flown off.
Yes, Adam and Pedro were battling up into turn number 1. They were side by side.
We've got a car off
the main straight. And that's Victor Veloso in 18th position. The number 10 car finds himself in the barrier just before turn number 5. He's got to wait patiently to rejoin the track. There's still a few cars coming round. He does indeed rejoin in 22nd position.
Promotes Jaban up to 18th, and he's now looking over the back of Gemini. Jaban normally a front runner in this series, but doesn't seem to have clicked so well with the FPM here today.
Yeah, driver's able to practice the combination for a little while up until the start of the race. Obviously, depending on real life commitments and other factors such as work and stuff, drivers might not be able to put as much time into practice as the rest of the field. So Japan, like we've seen him up at the sharp end of the grid in a lot of races, is currently 18th in race number 2.
Trespasser has just made the move for P3. He just got past Hydro on the straight. Will Hydro have any response?
It's not over yet. Hydro brakes ever so slightly later. Can he carry the speed around the outside? Trespasser just nice and easy on the power. Hydro with the draft will pull out to the left, although he does change his mind and move to the right. Now it's all about the exit for turn number 2.
Contact. Let's watch this on board from our festive friend Christmas Kelroy.
I'm never going to live that one down.
Never. Chris McElroy on the outside manages to thread the needle around the outside contact. He spins Trespass around and forces Hydro onto the grass. That was 3 wide in a corner where 3 wide is not a thing. And, well, Chris McElroy manages to come out ahead of everybody in that battle. But that is
incredibly careful.
Yeah.
Any contact in these cars is in real life more than likely race over for a few of these. They're ever so fragile.
That was opportunistic to say the least, and he forced 2 cars out of the way to do that, so that might get looked at afterwards. TJ leads this race, don't forget, with Crin bearing down him in second place. Those two driving pretty well. Adam, meanwhile, who finished the last race in P2, is up to P9 already, but Gemini, who won the previous race, only 15th.
Yeah, there's not much between your race leader and the man in second position. They set identical split 1 times, and we're only a tenth away from each other in split number 2. TJ out in the lead, the faster of the two this time around. Crin just seems to be a little bit too far to benefit from the draft at the moment. You can see they're still spreading out as the car's speed increases. Obviously, when you down at the apexes of corners and when we're a lot slower, you'll find the cars bunch up quite a bit. We're spreading out on the straights now. The gap between Crin in second position and your race leader is 1.02 seconds, so Crin doesn't need to do much to get inside that draft range. He's got to be incredibly careful over the curbs, obviously with this car having an open differential. If you get a wheel on the curb, you're going to spin that inside wheel, and that's not the greatest thing that you need. Bit deep into turn number 2 is the Team Rock Racing driver, and the gap to the lead is ever so slightly increasing. Yes, Motorsports Unite on stream now. He's the man in third position.
Sorry, we were watching Adam there as he kind of went round turn number 2 and got on the secondary pit lane off ramp and kind of launched his car in the air. He's looking over the back of Elmo, who I believe is letting him through. Yeah, he does. So I think Elmo might be giving places back or something, or just trying to get out of the way of these guys. Or maybe that was a bit of team orders, who knows.
Yeah, well, not only has Adam gone through, but Gavin, Pete and Hydro for Team Rock Racing have gone through. And MRC's Michael's now on the inside of Elmo as we run up into turn number 6 and 7. Don't discount Gemini though, even though Adam is ahead of him on track, and Gemini does have about 5 or 6 cars between the two. There's only really a couple seconds between them on track, and we know how fast Gemini is. As that's a car off to the left, that's MRC's Michael from 9th position.
Got a car off.
Into the barrier. He will rejoin, and he's lost a plethora of positions. He's behind Yari Katilla. Now he will be in 20th position.
Yeah, that's a huge loss for MRC Michael. TJ and Crin have crossed the start and finish line to start lap 7. I can't believe this is 7 laps through already. Yeah, we're approaching halfway. The gap between the top 3 is pretty close. In fact, the top 4, we've got Arco, who's knocking on the door of yes, Motorsports Unite. But second place in the last race.
Crin's lost it. Crin's lost it from second position at the apex of turn number 1. You'll see just in front of the shot now, yes, Motorsports Unite and Arco will go through, and Adam might pick up a position too. He does indeed. So Crin from second position just seemed to over-rotate the car at the apex of turn number 1 and getting on the power. We said, I mean, Crin was the one struggling on the curb at turn 1 last time around with that open differential. He might have done the exact same again and just gave it a bit too much throttle and span himself around, but he's down in 5th position now, and his tyres do not look healthy. His rear left tyre absolutely on fire.
The man on your screen, TC Racing's Adam, has made his way all the way from 27th position on the grid to currently be running 4th, and we're not even halfway through the race, Jack.
We're not indeed, but it's definitely not over. Gemini is only a corner behind, but Gemini's got plenty of cars to overtake, so Gemini he's going to thread the needle here. He was around Pekka Koivunen on the inside of turn number 5, follows Renault Coots into turn number 6 and 7 now. I think he'll be patient into 7. Could be side by side through turn number 8 depending on the exit that he gets. Renault Coots with a better exit, and Gemini slightly, his right rear was on the grass there, and you could see the snap of oversteer as we go through the kink now up to turn number 9 for the 7th time. Plenty of time remaining though for the man in 10th position to carve his way through the field and accompany Adam towards the front of the grid as Christmas Callaway and Renault Coots for Team Rock Racing are side by side. Now I'm doing it deliberately now, don't worry. But Gemini will profit from the 2, taking the draft from the TC Racing driver.
The problem is, the more we say
forward
that,
into turn 1,
the more it will solidify itself, and we'll start accidentally doing it on purpose.
Yeah, so Chris on the inside now. Gemini does have the overlap. Who's going to be later on the brakes there? Elmo will take the apex for turn number 1. He holds his ground, gives Gemini enough room on the outside, but Gemini will have the inside for turn number 2.
Yeah, he thought about defending his position, but thought better of it. As we've got a car going very wide. Who's that? Is that Coots? Yeah, that's Coots going very wide out of turn number 3. He does have a very battered rear wing. I assume he was caught up in the carnage at turn 1 on lap 1. He has no rear wing, basically. The damage model has just completely crushed that.
So Gemini needs to be very fast getting through this pack. I think the gap to Adam, which is his main competition at the moment, is around about 6 seconds. We're on lap 8 of 15, so we're about halfway through the race now. 7.5 laps was the middle point.
Adam's caught up to Arco, so Adam will be on the podium potentially in a couple of corners' time. If he can get the draft of Arco up the home straight, we might see Adam up to P3 with only 8 laps gone. See what he can do. Adam with a bit of a lock up there into the final corner. We're watching from the rear wing of Arco as we head onto the home straight. Adam with a good exit. He'll have the slipstream, but at what point during the home straight will he manage to catch up? Jack, what's going on elsewhere?
So still plenty of cars battling for position. Gemini in 9th position as we cross the line. He's got the draft from Coots, but I don't think it's enough to tackle him into turn number 1. Adam
Coots
again
is looking all the way up the back of his teammate. It's Hydro. He's side by
I was
side
going
with
to
him.
say, Adam was the fastest man on track until Renault Coots took that lap away from him. So Renault Coots was 7/100ths of a second faster. And Renault Coots has the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:43.93. Gemini very, very close to that time, a 1:43.95 last time around. So he's very fast, but not the fastest man on track. He has all this traffic to deal with, though. You can see Renault Coots is trying to keep Crin and Hydro behind him, but Gemini's behind these two.
Yeah, he's got 3 Team Up Racing cars ahead of him.
He has got the exit out of 12, though. He just got a slight snap of oversteer, did Gemini. And turn number 4 up through Corkscrew is not the best place to overtake, but they'll be happy to see Hydro and Crin battling in front as Hydro gets a big snap of oversteer. You can see he just caught it. Gemini on the inside now for turn number 6 and 7. Manages to get the move done into 6. Hits the apex perfectly for 7. Now he needs to get around Crin, and hopefully if he can get the exit that he needs through turn number 8, he can challenge Crin into turn number 9. A slight lift to not run wide. Crin kept it planted, and you can see the back of his car. The rear right slightly on the grass again. Loss of traction, and car tried to switch ends on him. Now Gemini's very, very wide into turn number 9. Trying to get the switch back. Unable to do so this time, but he's got Crin for company now. He's got the draft that he needs. You can see he's not directly tucking into the draft of Crin just yet. He wants to time his run just right. Obviously, if you attack too soon and pull out of the draft and get in front of the car, whilst there's still time for the car to attack again, you can swap positions twice along the straight. Renault Coots again takes the fastest lap from Adam. 1:53.58.
Speaking of Adam, he did get past Arco.
So Adam now up into the final spot on the podium, and he's not very far behind Yes Motorsports Unite, who's in 2nd place currently. I think it's going to take a lot for Adam to catch TJ, however. TJ, our race leader, 5.05 seconds ahead of the man in 3rd position, who is the biggest threat to the race lead at the moment.
Well, we saw what happened to Crin at the first corner a few laps ago. He just lost it all on his own, so it's possible. Anything's possible. Adam's already in a podium position with 6 laps left.
Yeah, so Gemini's managed to get around Crin. He needs to catch up to the back of Gavin Pete now, so Gemini's up to 7th position from 28th on the grid. With the remainder of this and 5 more laps, what can he do from 7th? He's massively faster than Gavin Pete, who is ahead of him.
Crin and Jabana battling.
Adam does not seem to be catching TJ or Unite. TJ second split the man in the lead, a 1:17.42. Unite a 1:17.30, and Adam a 1:17.68. So Adam is more than 2/10ths away from your race leader and almost half a second away from the man in 2nd position this time around. But the gap from Adam ahead is 1.68 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that towards the later stages of the races, but we now look back to Japan for Team Up Racing, who's in 8th position currently. Just managed to get around Crin. Gemini ahead seems to be pulling away a little. The gap's 1.5 seconds.
We've got a battle on for P15 right now between Chris McElroy and Ronnie, as it all gets very, very close up ahead. We've got contact between the two Teamwork Racing cars of Salmon and Hydro. Salmon in the pink and white Teamwork Racing machine, Hydro in the blue. Oh, as
Ronnie
Ronnie
with a massive snap of oversteer out of turn number 2. Nice free position for Chris McElroy.
got it right that time. Yeah, so the gaps up ahead definitely neutralised, but I will say that Unite and Adam are both seem to be catching TJ. I just don't know whether it's going to be enough for a move. There's still quite a lot of time in between the three cars. Gemini's moved up to 6th place, but yeah, he's a fair way behind Renault Coots and Arco, so looking very unlikely that we're going to see a double winner here today, but
yeah, so
that would have been a tall order anyway.
Gemini's 7.29 seconds behind Adam at the last split. That's too much to ask for, really.
Yeah,
with only 4 laps remaining. He's 12.2 seconds behind the race leader. And even though he has a tremendous amount of pace, it's just not enough, unfortunately. Now, Adam did not look to be catching Unite all that quick. However, Unite did struggle out of turn number 8 when we just switched the camera over to Adam. And Adam was the faster of the two last time around by a couple tenths. So if Adam can keep this pace moving forward, he might find himself an extra step up onto the podium. But with TJ just entering turn number 3 now, it's hard to say Adam will be able to catch him. The gap between Adam and the race leaders, 4.88 seconds. The gap to Unite's coming down. It's now under a second and a half. Although Unite is about a tenth faster this time around than Adam. A couple tenths now we go through split number 2. The gap is definitely, it's moving a couple tenths either way every other lap.
Yeah, and if you like what you see here, remember that we are only halfway through this season. There are 44 races in the Team Racing 2020 Championship. If you're not already involved and you feel like having a go, then you can do on the LFS forum. Sign-up's still open and will be for the remainder of the year. It's a pickup series, so you can do as many or as few races as you like. There are big prizes on offer at the end of the year, so get involved.
With a little battle unfolding for 4th position, Team Rock Racing's Renault Coots is looking towards the back of Arco's car. He does have the draft down the main straight. Now, last time around, Arco managed a 144.81. Meanwhile, Renault Coots, the man in pursuit, a 143.65. So 1.2 seconds faster was the Team Rock Racing car last lap. Did we see a mistake from Arco in 4th position? Tyres look pretty healthy. Now I saw one of the two drivers locking up into the final corner. Coots is as close as he's going to get into turn number 2. As we know, it's all about the exit, and Arco got the worst exit he could have done, and Coots just, I mean, he didn't have the grip to turn left, and he decided not to lift, managed to run into the back of Arco's car. Luckily, they were both able to get away with that. Through the corkscrew, turn number 4. On lap 13 and 15 now, so Coots is running out of time if he wants to get around the number 71 machine in 4th position. You can see just how close they get towards the apex now. We approach turn number 6 and 7. Coots taking a little bit more track limits. Arco not able to hit the apex of turn number 7, runs wide, but you want to be further to the right as we go through turn number 8
Coots
now.
with a good run.
Indeed, managed to carry a little bit more speed to the apex, aided by the draft through the kink. Now, which line is he going to choose? Now, Arco hugs the white line on the right, forces Coots to the outside, but look at the run he's able to get if he times it right. I mean, yes, the gap's increased, but Coots was able to take a wider line, get on the power a bit earlier. Now he's got the draft as well. You'll see how close we'll get at the end of the straight now into turn number 1.
I think Arco got a pretty decent run. I don't think Coots is going to be there. Nope.
So as we know, the draft obviously drops off the further away you get from the car ahead of you, but I mean, Coots has some slight damage at the base of his rear wing. It's not pointing in the right direction as the rear wing, so he's definitely been caught up in something now. Wondering if that could be hindering his straight line speed, but we know he gets very close into the corners, so he could have a couple more degrees rear wing as Arco again struggles on the power out of turn number 2. Coots looks to the inside. Arco chooses not to defend too hard. Late on the brakes is Arco. Can he hold it around the outside into turn number 3? He can indeed. Now, if I were Coots, I'd back off into the corkscrew. You've got to be incredibly careful now. You can't go into this corner 2x2.
Bit of laggy netcode there.
Into single file. Around turn number 5, and Arco, not again with not the greatest exit, but meanwhile, Gemini is catching both of these two up. Gemini is going to take the position from them both and find himself up in 4th position if we carry on.
Yeah, this would be a great comeback considering that Gemini was tangled up with that mid-group pack that Adam was just able to take better advantage of. Gemini was caught up in the middle of that 5 or 6 car pack, and Adam just managed to needle his way through. Shout out to Team at Racing's Jaban, who's taken the fastest lap of the race at the later stages of this race. We are on the final lap now. TJ leads the way.
Jaban currently in clean air down in 7th position, trailing Gemini by a few seconds. But curious to see what Gemini can do. We've just started the final lap of the race. The gap to the lead from Gemini is 10 seconds, so obviously he's not going to be able to get up into those podium positions, but plenty of time for him to get around Arco. We've already seen him make a move on Renault Coots, who does brake later. Gemini has to take the outside line, and Coots is able to get onto the power, but Gemini just gets a tread block of grass, and it just hinders his run now into turn number 2. He's going to have to do quite a lot this lap and hope that Coots and Arco can battle with each other if he's going to take 4th position away from either of them. Everything's still up for grabs.
That's going to be tough, I think. I mean, yeah. Well, anyway,
now we know towards the later stages of the races, drivers do get more desperate. If we see Coots and Arco tangle, Gemini will be profitable.
Oh, Adam loses it. He goes across the sleeping policeman on the inside of turn number 5, and yeah, lucky to not spin out with that one, but he's still in 3rd place for now.
So the gap to Unite from Adam last time around was about 1.5 seconds, which is where it's been for the majority of the race since Adam's found his way up into P3, but no one's been able to get close to TJ, the man in the lead, round in the very final corner for the very final time in race number 2. TJ will take victory here at Aston 22 in the Formula BMW for race number 2.
Here comes TJ, there he goes, and Unite onto the grass. Takes 2nd position, then it'll be TC Racing's Adam from 27th place on the grid up to P3. What an effort. Then it's who is it? It's Arco, followed by Renault Coots and Gemini, then Jaban, Kevin, Pete and Crin. Then one of the WCL cars, that's Pekka Koivunen with a good result, the top finishing World Class Science car of the 4. Then it's Team Racing Salmon, and closely followed behind by his teammates Hydro and Texas. Victor Filoso for Energy Virtual Racing gets P14. Roni, after a pretty shaky race, finishes in P15. Michael and Frank behind, and then a really close finish between the Cotillas, Yoni and Yari, and Chris McElroy, our festive friend, in P19. Just outside the top 20, it's Timu Soini for World Class Lions. Silas is Rick Cardle, who couldn't really get it together in P22. Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Piroppo in P23. Race Green Magic in P24. Just want to say that TJ for Road Appraiser stole the fastest lap there on the last lap. So very impressive to do that on the final lap. Magic crosses the line in P24, and Rocky will be our final finisher. Oh no, Trespasser finished in 26, so Rocky from pole position in race 2 finishes in P25, and Trespasser brings up the rear in P26. Nice.
It's curious to see that both winners of each race, respectively, have taken the fastest laps in their respective races. That's impressive considering out in the front, you don't have the draft. Completely unaided down that long straight that runs as long as the track is wide almost kind of thing. So very, very impressive for them to be so much faster throughout the rest of the lap to take the fastest lap without draft.
Yeah, a reminder to all competitors, we have a TeamSpeak server where you can join and have mid-race interviews in any of the races that we broadcast, not just this one. So drivers are more than welcome to come and say hi. Before we do any interviews or before we sign off, I just want to say one final shout out to the event we have coming up this weekend, Fragmasters Fox Fridays 10-year anniversary. This Saturday, June 6th, kicking off here on simbroadcasts.tv at 6:15 UTC for 30 minutes of qualifying. Then we have a 3-hour race beginning at 7, going on late into the night. Join us for that. It'll be at AS6. We've got 32 cars, Jack. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. And we're going to have, we're told we're going to have a few people join in the commentary box to give us some anecdotes and some thoughts and memories from throughout the 10-year history of Fragmasters. It's a league I'm very fond of and have been part of for most of the 10 years when I've been able to find the time. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic race. Lots of great drivers taking part. We've got a few former champions of the series taking part. Sami Lipmanen and a few others will be joining the grid for that. So we hope to see you then. So Jack, how do we want to sum up our pretty eclectic and enjoyable set of races that we've had tonight? It doesn't always go this way. We have seen a fair few incidents and accidents throughout the last couple of rounds, especially last week at Rockingham Historic Short. That was a bit of carnage in the FZ5. But today, yeah, we had a little bit of carnage in race 2. But on the whole, some absolutely fantastic pack racing from the guys here in this series. What have you got to say?
Well, I think you can just sum it up with what you just said. I completely agree with every point that you made there. Very clean racing from everybody, leaving adequate room, the majority of the time, and being generous with track limits and leaving room and things like that. And yeah, apart from the carnage that we saw at the start of race 2, which Gemini and Adam were both involved in and managed to make their way both up into 6th and 3rd respectively, showed that it wasn't too carnage filled. And you're always going to have a couple incidents throughout the race, especially at the start. So we're joined in the commentary box by the two TC racing drivers. We'll start with you first, Chris McElroy, if I can say your name right. I called you Chris McElroy earlier, and Pete's never let me live it down earlier. So how did your race go?
How did your race go?
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's May. No, it's June. It's as far away from Christmas as it's possible to be. How do you, first of all, how do you feel about your new nickname, which is sticking, by the way?
Oh dear.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to have to permanently wear my bar humbug name now, aren't I?
Christmas Kelroy. I can't believe it. It's perfect. Okay, yes, back to the racing.
Right, anyway, race 1. I don't know, I think it was more than just I had a bit of lower arm damage, but my left rear was roasting far too much, so
That was a common theme
really...
up and down the grid.
Yeah,
Another
think it was
car
just
you were
not
battling
enough
with
camber.
was Roney. He was having similar issues, I think.
Yeah,
You
I
got
had
the wrong end of that a couple of times.
Yeah, I had a slight amount. I don't think it was enough to make it that bad, so I think it was just the camber on the setup, which I changed for race 2. And race 2 did pretty well, right up until the point I managed to massively over-rev the engine. This gearbox.
You love it.
Yeah,
You love it.
a significant amount of the time, this thing doesn't shift when I want it to, and the one time I knock the stick in the wrong direction, it shifts into first instead of third.
Fantastic. Well,
But so apart from
yeah.
that, I was a sitting.
We saw you in this
halfway through the race.
In this most recent race, you made a 3 wide that was never a 3 wide happen down into the well, I'll call it the Aston Cadet first corner, which I guess is turn 3 on this custom configuration. Tell us what happened with that, if you can remember that far back.
Was that immediately before I broke my engine, perchance?
I've no
Could
idea.
have been.
I think it might have been.
It was where you took out two cars.
2 cars.
Two cars. You forced Hydra onto the grass on
Um,
the inside, and Trespassers spun out on the left.
no. Well, I noticed Trespasser, so I
So you
I
okay?
moved out so as not to smash into the back of Trespasser,
Okay.
and I braked slightly less or slightly more poorly than he did. So there was a tiny bit of overlap, and he turned right, and then I don't know what happened.
We'll have to watch it back
But I
anyway.
was
Yeah.
I was a bit locked up there, so I couldn't turn in when I wanted to turn in, and I had no idea what happened to the right, but I didn't want to move over too far. So yeah, I'll have to look back at that one. I'm not quite sure what happened.
So yeah, another race that could have been, I guess. But yeah, it looked like you got a fair few decent battles in. So
Yeah, it was all right until my engine bought. Basically,
Well-
first half of the race, great.
someone else who fared slightly better in these two races is TC Racing's Adam Brown. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
That was quite an entertaining second race, 27th. Did you manage to avoid the first lap carnage by any chance?
Nope.
I was going to say,
After-
I saw a TC Racing car like spinning out there. I assumed
Yeah.
it was you because Chris was all the way up at the front of the grid. What happened? And to regroup and get up to the podium, how did race 2 go for you?
Oh well, it's the first lap. There's always going to be some carnage, and I think after the first corner, a couple of people ahead of me got caught up, and because everyone's so close, everyone's going to crash into everyone, and I ended up in the middle of it all. No escape. Ended up right at the back.
Well, you did
Luckily,
very well.
luckily no damage.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got a little bit of
Surprised by
rear wing
that.
damage, but I'm guessing you picked that up after the race.
Yeah, there was a slight
Yes.
kink on your front wing, I think, but other than that, you were unaffected. Could you feel the? Obviously, you'd size up the car in the few corners after the contact. Obviously, it was drivable for you. Did you find any extra speed on the straights from the bent front wing?
No, I mean it felt exactly the same. So
Could be
I don't
purely
think I can-
cosmetic though. But congratulations on your podium. There was some contact between you and Gemini, I think, at the early stages of the races. I mean, you were following him for a few laps and trying to dice your way through the pack. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I think that was when I made it a 3 wide into that. Yeah, Frankie was kind of a sitting duck in the middle, and me and Gemini were trying to get past. And then I saw a gap on the inside, and I just decided to jump for it because
You know what
Yeah.
Senna said.
yeah,
You are a racing driver. You went for that gap.
yeah. I mean,
Congratulations on your podium, though.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. I mean,
Where are we next week?
We're at another Kyoto custom configuration, but this time in a front-wheel drive little GTI car, the XFG.
So how are you two looking forward to that? I'll start with you first, Adam.
I think it's an interesting choice for a combo. Kyoto is quite a wide, fast track, and the is quite a slow car, so it'll all be about getting the power down early.
And just like this week, it's going to be a bit of pack racing, I imagine. Today was great with the FBMs. Everyone's so close together. Do you reckon that it will be a similar story next week with the boxy XFG?
It definitely will be, I think. Of course, there are some people that specialise with the GTI, and they'll be off up the road, but I'm sure in the mid-pack it's going to be close.
And what about you, Omo?
I was paying no attention whatsoever. What did you say?
Talking about next week's combination for Tuesday's Team Rock
Which
Racing.
is
XFG and
Kyoto.
some Kyoto open
Yeah,
configuration.
some custom configuration of Kyoto in the XFG, as we said.
XFE. That's not going to be good for me. Oh well.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, thank you, gents. Once again, thank you to Jack for joining me in the commentary box. Thanks to Mandula for providing me with the Fragmasters Fox Friday 10th anniversary promo image. I appreciate that. And thank you, everybody else, for watching tonight's broadcast. Join us at the weekend for the 10th anniversary of the Fox Friday series, and next week for the Team Racing Championship. Also to mention this weekend is round 4 of the Bagheera Zero Mileage GT Cup at Aston North. So that'll be another one to look out for over on the Bagheera 301 Games Twitch channel. Hope to see you then. So all that's left to say is goodbye from me and goodbye from Jack.
All the best, guys. Take care. See you next time.
See you later.